Today on the Life Science Success Today on the Life Science Success podcast, my guest is Matt Landry. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Don. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, can you tell listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, I've been in the biotech life science industry for about 20 years. I started in sales, kind of pounded the pavement, went to many academic institutions, covered multiple states, and really focused on learning, about this industry, which was, very, it was a daunting task. There's so many research topics. There's so many, different, types of researchers that I spoke to, and it was exciting. There was just so much that I could gain, from doing my job, and I really enjoyed that. Um, Early on in my career, I took a pay cut and worked for a smaller biotech company, and I got to put on all those hats: the marketing hat, the operations hat. I got to just continue to gain knowledge, and I really enjoyed how life science and biotech had this transparency in publications. You can really, not many industries that I know of, you could gain so much knowledge and insight by looking at the millions of publications out there. And it consumed me, right? All this data. And then the proteomic industry came, and proteomics just had so much information, and it was just like a tidal wave of content, and all that data and all those customers and clients that really just propelled me, into more marketing, more operations. And I ended up working with some companies for over a decade in the proteomic space. I was lucky to get a ton of experience with suppliers. I interact with hundreds of suppliers now. And I learned how to position products and sell products. And over that course, I generated tens of thousands of leads and tens of millions of dollars. And I see a really bright future and path, in this field.
Yeah, it's great to hear that. I mean, I completely agree with you that it's there's so much information that can be learned and gleaned from somebody that wants to do a little bit of digging and a little bit of reading, and you know, it's just so interesting, in a lot of ways, to watch how people or scientists do some of the things that they do. And maybe to them, it's more, mainstream, right? More, they're more used to the things that they're seeing, but to somebody from the outside, I mean, it's just amazing to watch some of the stuff that they're doing.
Took many years. It took a long time to be able to just translate all the different approaches that would come across your path. So it's a challenging learning curve, for sure. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about your sort of translation from where you were originally selling to going to startup. I mean, coming out of that, you must have had a wealth of experience as well. You must have felt as if you learned a lot in that role as well, because you were having to wear so many hats, moving to a smaller company.
Startup. I've been in startup most of my career, if not all my career, and you have that additional challenge of being profitable.
Mm.
Of being able to build a business, and so that is extremely challenging when you're in the research space, right? Research in nature takes many reiterations, many different takes, and so I had to learn early on to focus on what worked, and it certainly was exciting when you found something that worked, and you're able to scale a business and grow. And I've been very fortunate to have those opportunities to grow a company, five, six fold. And doing that in the research space not only is rewarding because you're helping, so many, so many people out there, but you got a business, and that's really exciting.
So now you're at science.com, and you're scientist.com, excuse me, and your focus is more on reagents and chemicals. Can you tell me just a little bit about, yeah, so what led you to kind of this point, because you started off telling us about proteomics, and then now you're with reagents and chemicals at scientist.com.
Well, scientist.com kind of got my attention for a few years back. They were growing in my backyard here in San Diego. I had the pleasure of meeting Kevin Lustig, right before COVID. And, there was a very talented team that was much more capable than I was to handle all this data, all this information. The talent at scientist.com is tremendous. And so when I saw that there was an opportunity to take my product experience, because essentially I've been spending 20 years selling products, and combine it with a group that could digitize a procurement journey for big pharma or for procurement or research, and really deploy new processes that other organizations haven't done before. I said, okay, this looks like a really exciting way to progress in my career. So it really was a no-brainer. I've always looked to do new things, and applying a cloud-based model to procuring products just looked tremendously exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got to be a daunting challenge to tackle. So let's talk a little bit more about scientist.com. So you said that they're based in San Diego. I heard that. And they have a cloud-based platform. What else can you tell us about scientist.com?
Yeah, so scientist.com, the primary clients today are large pharma and biotech companies, right? And these companies, had some significant challenges managing all the suppliers in this space. The company is predominantly a service provider. So we connect big pharma and biotech procurement groups to thousands of service providers, and we enable that back and forth communication between a end user or someone who's looking to outsource a particular project to service providers. And the value proposition is quite simple. By helping our clients digitize this process, we're able to save them a lot of time. We're able to effectively enable them to communicate, at a scale that they haven't been able to do before with more suppliers, and that helps them save money. And so that value proposition is really strong, and the company has scaled tremendously with the top 23, 24, pharma companies, top 24 out of 30 pharma companies, another 85 biotech companies. And it looks like once we get into one department, we get into another one, and then another one, because you can't beat that value proposition. By deploying a software-based approach and digitizing that journey, you can scale, and you can consolidate all those communication activities, those financial activities, those you can really do a lot. And so that is the core business. The product hub is very new. It's been it's about a year and a half, 2 years old, and we see a lot of synergies between those two businesses and how we can help these companies, as well as more academic researchers and other organizations out there.
Yeah, I remember. I can remember a particular biotech and going into this one sort of development area, right? So they were doing runs to scale up a particular cancer drug, and so we were in San Francisco, and you go to this floor where the manufacturing is, and okay, fine, there's tons of manufacturing equipment, that's understood. And then I remember the CEO said, "Well, hang on a second, you've got to come with me and go see this." And he took me to another floor that was completely undeveloped. It was temperature controlled and things like that, but there was nothing in there but supplies, and it was a disaster. And he said, "Look, this is what is a headache for me." He goes, I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to I don't know how to count it or anything else. And I remember we talked about some different things that they could do, and we outlined some different things. But I mean, at the end of the day, his big problem was that, I mean, suppliers were sending him lots of stuff, of course, because that was, what would help them. But what was hurting him was just the amount of space all this stuff was taking, and he was just like, there's got to be a better way. This sounds like scientist.com helps companies tackle that too.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done there, especially during COVID. You saw all these supply chain issues that popped up. Shortages in consumables, tips, and cryo vials, and plates, and supply channel was kind of turned upside down. And so you really got to see some of the holes there, in the marketplace.
Mm.
And so, being able to have uh, to help the companies, not just with the inventory aspect of it, but to be able to have available supply, secondary suppliers, to have alternative options. There's a lot of work still that can be done there.
Yeah. And so, I mean, when customers come to scientist.com, what are some of the key problems that they're looking to solve?
Oh, I mean, there are thousands of suppliers. The number of suppliers is growing. The amount of content and information is growing, and managing that is very challenging. And being able to do that all in one place,
Mm.
and not take the supplier out of the equation, right? We can they have so much value and so much that they can contribute to these end users and these clients. But to put it all into one place, I think is extremely helpful. As what scientists.com has done with the service side of the business, we can consolidate all those activities. We can build out new processes, right? So if we have a group of end users that are using scientists.com, we can deploy new processes across that organization much easier, because we have, they're connected with us. And so, if you want to deploy maybe a new compliance procedure within an organization, or you want to have new approvals, or any types of rules that you want to establish for procuring, we can do that very effectively. And so, not only do we help save time and money by consolidating everything in one place and digitizing that buying journey, but we can, take initiatives that these companies have and deploy them for them. And that is, that's those types of initiatives are growing. Right? Companies have more regulatory requirements. They have more, different. Things they want to try and accomplish, and so we can help be a vehicle for them.
Great. Can you give me an example of the initiatives that they might be looking to use your system for? I mean, I have like five that popped in my head right as you were saying that, but it was like,
Well, yeah, so certainly, there, I mean, the amount of research that is outsourced on scientists.com is incredible. There are thousands of research topics. It's very broad. But from the sourcing of human biological samples to the downstream metabolic toxicology assays, there's so much that's done, and maybe a category, in a department needs special approvals when a end user wants to outsource a project, and we can tie in all those types of approvals, so we can accomplish for that organization how they want to outsource that project. Maybe a client has regulatory requirements for maybe sourcing human biological samples, or in vivo studies, and they want to have it all in one place,
mm,
and they want to consolidate all those activities in one place, and we can do that, and also check all those boxes that are needed during that process, so they can um, you know uh, follow what their internal guidances are. So there's a couple examples, but there's clients with hundreds of rules, and so that there's a lot we can do that that companies aren't addressing, like scientists is.
and are you working also? I mean, you're saying that most of your clients are the biotechs and pharma companies. The are you working also with the supplier side of things, or not so much, and you're just primarily focused on the other side?
Absolutely. I mean, the scientist.com has grown so much that now we're an extremely viable channel for suppliers to get access to this challenging client base. So absolutely, we work with suppliers to make sure that they're positioned as well as possible for their organization. We have to know what suppliers, which suppliers are helpful for certain projects. We have a very active team. We call the research concierge team that reviews projects and makes sure as a company we're doing our best for clients. And so connecting them to suppliers is critical for success. Suppliers are extremely important for client success. So there's a lot that we need to do there. Scientist.com has also acquired, marketing companies, primarily because suppliers want to get more exposure to clients. And so we have we have a webinar, Insight Scientific company. We have other types of angles that suppliers can take to try and get more exposure on the marketplace for clients. So and it's always evolving. There's so much out there. With I think our supplier network is over 4,000. So there's a lot of connections happening.
Yeah, and I would imagine as well that this journey from start to finish is one that's an interesting one as well. So how does scientist.com start with the customer whenever you first walk in the door? Let's say somebody doesn't, maybe they have an older ERP system that primarily they're using. I'm assuming that this is where scientist.com primarily fits, is in that space.
Well, we can tie into most of those systems, right? We essentially build a custom suite based on their needs, and that market of connecting service providers to clients was really the how we got in the door. There was not other viable solutions out there that could do what we could do. And so and when you're doing something right, and you're saving a tremendous amount of time and money over the years, the word gets out, right? And so word of mouth, and growing and helping our organizations deploy across multiple departments is really how the company grew, right? We have a tremendous team that engages with clients, and has a very good understanding and knowledge of what their needs are, and so we've been very client focused, and I think that's helped too.
Perfect. And from start to finish, do you have any idea what it takes to actually set up your system?
Oh yeah, I mean, many clients, clients will have a set of needs, and oftentimes it'll take many months to set up with a particular client. So it's some clients are easier than others, and we can deploy kind of the kind of the standard approach, but others will have significant needs that take a lot of development time. Right. And we have many developers at scientist.com. We have over 40 developers on staff. That some projects take multiple months.
Yeah, I mean, quite a journey, and it sounds like such an important thing to be able to do for customers. So, Matt, there are three questions that I like to ask every guest. What inspires you?
Well, that's a tough, that's a great question. Research by nature is incredibly challenging. I think, I've interacted with thousands of researchers, and you see the massive amount of time problem solving, and if you can make an impact, if you can really help streamline that problem solving journey, either by offering a new product, which I did in my past, or what scientist.com is doing by deploying you know solutions and processes, it's you're enabling a higher level of research. And our company has a pretty ambitious goal. We want to solve all human disease by 2050. And it sounds like such a daunting task, but if you're able to really reduce the amount of time for researchers to solve their problems, there's a lot we can do there. So, it always feels so good when you find a solution and it works for many people,
Yeah.
and that really inspires me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the feeding the research pipeline definitely would have a strong impact, and it sounds like your mission definitely is a lofty goal for the organization. What concerns you?
Oh, I think early on, I learned that reproducibility in research was a huge issue. Not only with reproducing publications, but just individual researchers trying to reproduce what they've done before. The variability with products, the variability, it is intrinsic with research, but it was something that I think there's a lot of improvements that can be made. And as a company, that's something that I want to try and help with too, right? It's I mentioned before, transparency in publications was so cool, but how much can you lean on that? And so really for me, it's the, there's so many suppliers, there's so many distributors. There's the quality of a product can range so much. So let's make sure we're doing the best that we can as an organization to help with that.
Very good. And then what excites you?
New technologies, um, right? I mean, proteomics was incredibly exciting when you had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of products just come into the marketplace that, and seeing how these tools work, antibodies, right? ELISA kits, proteomic assays, that was really great. I mean, scaling something, growth is super exciting, right? As we said before. So yeah, I think always improving, is exciting. But yeah, seeing a business grow, hiring new employees, that's truly, some of the most exciting times that I've had.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it's one of those times whenever you start to sort of feel a momentum behind you, and there's this push then also to help grow the organization as well, and I love that feeling. It is truly exciting to watch an organization finally hit its stride. And yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that one of the greatest things that you can watch is something grow from almost nothing or an idea in somebody's head all the way through to potentially impacting hundreds or thousands of lives that are touched either by employment, the nature of coming to work, or secondly the work that you do, again, kind of moving things forward. So this one really touched a nerve with me, so thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Don. It's,
Well, Matt Landry, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. I greatly appreciate you being on Life Science Success, and wish you the best of luck.